He's actually on tonight. There we go. There we go. That's probably way more better. Way more better. How's that? What's going on, everybody? I don't know how well you guys can hear me or not. Let's try to pick that gain up a little bit. How about that? Turn that volume up a little bit. Can you guys hear me now? Hopefully so. Hopefully you guys can. I can't. I can't tell. There. Oh yeah. You guys can definitely hear me. It's actually probably a little too loud. There you go. So yeah, we're here. We're live. We're online. We got we got the pooch back there. He's doing his thing. We're doing our thing. Can't hear me? You sure you can't hear me? One more time here for the people in the back. How about now? Can you hear me now? Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. We are on the stream. I forgot what the fucking name this thing, to be honest. Um, I'd have to look here real quick. This is probably a bad idea. Yes, welcome back. Welcome to the first. This is the first one. You know what I mean? This is probably a bad idea, and I probably shouldn't say this. Today we're gonna be talking about a couple of interesting things. How you doing back there, dog? He seems nervous too. We're all nervous. We're all nervous about this. This is a lot of stuff going on here. So where should we start? I guess we should get a little bit acquainted. Y- you're you're on the internet. You know, it's Friday on or Thursday. Yeah, it's Thursday night. You know, and you're looking for and you're tired. You're tired of all the same shit always popping up and on all the feeds, all the bright fucking shiny. You know, oh my god, oh my god. And you know you're ready for something a little bit different. You know what I mean? You're ready for a little bit something a little raw, something a little off the scripts. You know, I couldn't do a script even if I tried. Like, I mean, I probably could read a script really good, but you know, like, who would want to? You know, I mean, really, who would want to? Is that a knock at my door, or is that my dog? Is that a knock? If that's a knock, do it again. Dog, was that you? No, I don't think it was you either. Was that you? I guess you know, I'm hearing shit, apparently. I mean, I don't think I'm hearing shit, but I'm pretty sure I just heard some shit. Who knows? Um, But I'm gonna say this. This is probably one of the biggest things that I mean, I know they're bad for me. I know they're horrible for me. Probably. I know they're god awful. Maybe you know what I mean. They're probably like the worst thing I can ever do as a human is smoke an electronic device. But at the same time, I mean, I'm horribly depressed, and I know that this is terrible for me. So I choose to do this terrible thing, this terrible habit, instead of other terrible habits because it's just like um, I see a lot of really fucked up shit that people do in the world with a smile on their face. You know what I mean? They're like they're like business as usual. They're like highest proceeds and profits ever. Since since last year. And so I'm like, what? I'll just silently kill myself in the background. Good for you guys. You know what I mean? I think it's horrible. Honestly, I think what people are doing in the world is fucking. It's 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 mind-boggling. It's fucking baffling. Really, is what it is. It kind of like shakes my brain sometimes. Like I'm like, okay, like when's the ride gonna stop? Like where's can I get off? Where was the sign letting me know that I was getting on? Because if I knew there was like like a instructional and video on like what the fuck this ride was about, I mean I wouldn't have signed up. I mean, I would have signed up. I signed up every time. I definitely sign up every time. Like, put my hand up. I do that every single time, because I signed up for the reasons I signed up may not be the mission. You know what I mean? Like, like I went in for a completely different reason, and when I got in and I realized what was going on, I was just like, okay, I get that. That's great, but I'm gonna take my information and I'm gonna apply it to making sure that I keep my loved ones safe and myself safe as best as possible. And I'm gonna let you know right now, even with foreknowledge, face palmed on the pavement all the way through. Man, this shit was terrible. It was horrible. But shit, it's how it goes. You know what I mean? It's just like when you're dealing with this much money, when you're dealing with this much power, when you're dealing with this much control, when you're dealing with people who are getting onto that point where they're ready to like, you know, own it all, run it all. Like, this is not something that's been like this isn't like a 3-year, 4-year fucking plan. This ain't that shit you're doing in high school where they're like, all right, you write out your little 5-year plan. Okay. Like that's not what's going on here. What this is something this has been architected. It's been worked on, and it's been maneuvered on, it's been well thought on, it's been born on, it's been died on, it's been fucking bred on. You know what I mean? Like this is something that goes back for thousands of years. People have been this getting to this point. You know what I mean? And every time that we get to these moments where we're taking these huge leaps, like when you look at like AI and shit like that, like I know honestly, I don't even know what the fuck I'm supposed to be talking about in this fucking video, but we're just gonna fucking ramble. But when you look at AI and shit like that, and where that stuff is going and what that shit can do, type shit, like what it's what it really is, and then like what it's perceived as, what it's pushed off as, and everything. it's very obvious, this facial recognition shit, these androids and shit, these drones. I mean, we can go into that stuff all day and every day, but I feel like I should probably stay a little bit on topic for as tinfoiled as that roster is here. So let's pull that up. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. The war on terror. See, I mean, if you ask me, I know nobody is, but I'm gonna say it anyways. The war on fucking terror is like a it was a it was a really fucked up play, but I mean, it worked brilliantly, like, because, like, I mean, the way I see it is just like I'm a realist, you know what I mean? I realize what the fuck's going on. I see the movements, I see what's going on and everything, and it, and there's not enough people that give a shit. You know what I mean? There's not enough people that give a shit enough to actually, like, do something about it. You know what I mean? It's just like you can look at all these different politicians, and you can, clearly see that, they're all taking money from corporations or foreign aid packs and shit like that. You know what I mean? It's just like I can't name a a, a guy or a lady. Um, but then again, I'm an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an idiot. So who knows? But I can't name one that doesn't take the money. You know what I mean? I can't name one that doesn't take the money. That doesn't like just, pass the bills. They swear up and down. They're like, we're gonna make things better. Money's gonna be good again, and you're all gonna get jobs. You know, it's crazy because it doesn't happen. I feel like um it's funny. Every year the inflation goes up. Things get a little bit more expensive. It's like, what, 2.53% every year, and then they but they'll give you a raise every year. Everybody gets a raise every year. It's like 1%, 1.5%. So it's never enough to cover the inflation amount, but it's there. But the crazy thing is, the federal minimum wage is still low as shit. I'm pretty sure it's still like I I'm pretty sure it's still $7. I'm almost certain it's still $7, but we're gonna find out what is the federal minimum wage. Let's see here. Yeah. So as of 2026, today, right now, Happy New Year's, everybody. It's still $7.25. That's all you're getting. You know, that's all you get. That's all you're worth is $7.25 per hour. Doesn't matter how hard you're working, or it doesn't matter how much profit. Let's look at something else here. Let's check something else out here. This is going to be interesting to see. What is the average annual Okay, I'm not interested in AI mode. All right, so since 2000, US corporate profits have grown significantly faster than wages, with one analysis showing a 107% increase in corporate profits versus 28% for employee compensation. Holy shit. All right, so adjusted for inflation by 2018. Though precise average annual growth varies by period and definition, e.g., total profits versus profits after tax, but data suggests strong growth within U.S. profits rising from roughly $786 billion in 2000 to over $3.6 trillion by 2023, indicating a substantial, though fluctuating, long term upward trend. So to break that down into layman's terms, um, every year they've made more money, right? So every year they make more money than they made the year before. On top of the fact that they pay you the exact same amount, right? That's very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. All right, so let's stay on topic, right? We're on war on terror, so let's ask that question. Let's get a baseline let's get a baseline understanding what that was, right? What is the war on terror? And I like to use Google as the baseline because it does a couple of different things. It gives you it gives you the official narrative. You know what I mean? It gives you what it is you're supposed to know about that. But I always found it interesting that, like, you know the war the incident that led up to to enact the war on terror, which is, I mean, I still can't figure out what a terrorist looks like. Like, if, like, let's see here. I'm just gonna look up. Yeah, let's look at terrorism. All right, and let's look at an image of terrorism. So, okay, so the first image that pops up on Google when you type in the word terrorism is from the FBI website. It's from https www.fbi.com or .gov, excuse me, www.fbi.gov/investigate/terrorism. That's the first image you get. Then you get Air Combat Command, then you get Amazon, then Bloomsbury Publishing, then Shutterstock, then Amazon again, University of California, some more Shutterstock, CSIS, Sage College. I just wanted to cite those out, but and then when you're looking at what a terrorist is, you don't actually get an image of an individual. You get shadows, you get like hands and bombs. So the first image is Joint Terrorism Task Force, and it looks like one of those FBI jackets, but instead of it saying FBI, it's just JTTF or whatever. And then the next one is an Air Force propaganda thing, anti-terrorism. Bloomsbury Publishing comes after Amazon. Interesting. So Ronald D. Law, Terrorism, a History, shows like a hand with some TNT. It's just interesting because, all right, so you scroll down a little bit, then you start seeing your traditional terrorists. You know what I mean? CTC Intel. Yeah, what is that? CTC Sentinel. The Islamic State and Al Qaeda go to war in West Africa. This is the first image that you get of, like, which you're supposed to be looking for when you look at a terrorist or whatever. Or I guess Insurgency and Terrorism, which is another book on Amazon. But that's from the U.S. Army, that CTC Sentinel image. All right, you can't really, but the most important thing is like in all of these images, like except for this one right here, New America, terrorists in America after 9/11, and it shows, you know, some images of some people here. Let's see who these people are. Who are the terrorists? Is the name of this article from New America. Terrorism in America after 9/11. Who are the terrorists? All right. Who are they? Interesting enough, on here, a U.S. Army major has their image present on here. This guy definitely looks like he might be U.S. These other guys, I mean, this guy definitely looks like he's U.S. I mean, he's in fucking U.S. prison suit with this individual right here. In the post 9/11 era, conventional wisdom holds the jihadist threat is foreign. Blah 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 blah. Interesting. All right, so with the war on terror, right? So that's right, we had to pull that up. The war on terror, or global war on terrorism, is a global military campaign and framework for counterterrorism actions launched by the U.S. after September 11, 2001 attacks by Al Qaeda, aiming to find, stop, and defeat terrorist groups globally through military, diplomatic, financial, and domestic security measures. It encompasses major conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq, operations against groups like Al Qaeda, ISIS, and extensive international cooperation and new domestic security laws. Okay. So some of the key aspects it pulls up here is that it was initiated by, good old President George W. Bush Jr. Following the 9/11 attacks on the United States, which killed nearly 3,000 people in New York, Manhattan, Washington at the Pentagon, Pennsylvania in a field. A lot of death, a lot of unnecessary death. The objectives were to eradicate terrorist organizations with global reach, prevent future attacks, and dismantle terrorist networks and their financing. Some of the key participants were led by the United States, involving a broad international coalition of nations, military forces, and intelligence agencies. So a lot of fucking money, and a lot of intelligence, a lot of eyes on this, a lot of eyes, a lot of ears, a lot of mouths and noses, and fingers and toes, and all that other shit, right? A lot of bodies on this, right? A lot of people working on this. Some of the major operations was the invasion of Afghanistan. That was in 2001 to overthrow the Taliban regime harboring Al Qaeda. Right. And then there's the invasion of Iraq. Part of the broader conflict, though its direct link to 9/11 was debated. Right. Yes, of course. Iraq, the oil. They needed to figure out if, they used, Iraqi oil in those airplanes or not. Global operations targeting terrorist cells and leaders in Middle East, Africa, Asia, and elsewhere. Tactics and dimensions: military, direct combat, special operations, and drone strikes. Financial: cutting off funding for terrorist groups. Okay, so we're gonna ask a couple of questions here. So, This is what I love using AI for. What are you doing back there, boy? You scratchy? You scratchy dog? You a scratchy dog? Look at you. You're such a lazy dog. Look at you. You're 11 that bad, aren't you? You're 11 that bad, aren't you? Yeah. See this punk right here. In a bout of excitement yesterday, pissed all over our bed, and prompted us to have to go out and go get more sheets and blankets, and we were very thankful for that because they are amazing. That blanket, it's a Chanel. Chanel. They're Chanel blankets or whatever. They're at fucking Ross for like $30 or some shit like that. So, but I, if $30, I don't know why the hell did people have to spend $1 million for the same blankets. I know at one point somebody spent $1,000 on that blanket, and I don't know why. But I also don't know why that blanket costs the same amount as my couch. My couch was also $30, and the guy moved it in and everything. Took it off the truck. You looked at me. I was just like, oh my knees. It's like, I got you, man. You fucking threw that shit up in there. $30. You earn that money, and. So why the fuck am I spending so much on this goddamn blanket? But I see why. It's warm, it's cozy, it's comfortable. Like it was so comfortable. I'm in the same outfit I was wearing yesterday, obviously. Just obviously total fucking hardcore sidetrack. But yeah, freaking get up in there. I get up this morning, get out of bed, use the bathroom, take the dog out, feed him, and bring him back in. But the power goes out. That's right, power goes out. So I got nothing to do. So I'm sitting there, got the window blinds open, everything's nice and bright in there, and I'm just sitting there on that bed, and I'm just like, fuck, this is so comfortable. This bed is so comfortable. And I always tell myself I'm going to go back to sleep when I wake up in the morning because I need more sleep because I'm always tired. And I never do it. I always just get up and I'm just up and I just stay up. But this time I said, fuck it. And I closed those blinds up and I laid the fuck down and then I knocked out. And I knocked out good. And I stayed asleep for the rest of the fucking day. And it was amazing. It was good. I was drooling. I was out. I was out. I was done. I was done. But, I needed it. It's hard. It's hard to get sleep sometimes nowadays. A lot of times, it's hard to get sleep. And it's not without trying. You know what I mean? It's just like trust me. It's like my mom puts me to sleep. She puts me out. But sometimes my brain is so restless. So even though my body's knocked the fuck out, my brain is active, and I was able to get brain rest, and that rest was fucking phenomenal. It was great. My dog didn't act an ass. He sat there. He sat because he's in restriction now. He's on restriction for the next couple of weeks. So and he did what he was supposed to do. So that was good. Um, yeah, I don't. Obviously, I don't do this good. I don't do this often. I don't know what the fuck's going on in this thing. Yeah, I don't do this often. I don't do this well, so don't expect it to be some fucking polished up special thing. But I'm still gonna fucking do it. I got problems. All right, I got fucking ADHD and shit like that, and fucking PTSD and fucking any other letters that are fucking conjumbled together. Um, Well, that's neither here or there. You know what I mean? We work through the problems, and not despite them or whatever. I don't fucking know the saying. Um, Hold on here. Let me just close that out real quick. Yeah, but we're gonna get back into this. We're gonna ask this question about the war on terror because this is very interesting. This is what I like to use AI for. I like to use Perplexity AI. This is not a shout out to Perplexity AI. This is not like this is not a paid advertisement. This isn't a sponsorship or anything like that. Nothing like that. Anything that you see, if you see something and it's a brand item or anything like that, that's not what this is. If I talk about something, that's not what the fuck this is. I'm not doing any of that shit. All I'm doing is just I can't help but fucking go through my day without talking about something, you know. And I know that that's how it's designed to be. It's designed to be where I can't even mention anything without it being subliminal advertisement for you to purchase something. And so you got to be careful with that. So take that as you will. So like whatever, just because you see me wearing it or you see me talking about it or I'm like positive about it, that doesn't mean go out there and get it, right? But if there is a deal on it and it's just there and I'm like, hey, this thing fucking works and it's legit, then I'll be like, hey, check it out, But, you know, if a company wants to give me money, I'll have to fucking talk. I need I'm more of a face to face guy. So if you want to give me money, like, I don't know. Well, I mean, you gotta talk to my manager about that shit. You know what I mean? So you have to talk to my manager about that shit. I don't know how that works. So let me ask this question on this fucking thing. See, that's how fucking bad it is. You know what I mean? It's horrible. It's muy terrible, and then I'm smoking on top of it, so it's even horribler. War on Terror. Okay, all right. So I gotta figure this out. Okay, I'm actually gonna open up a new thread. I'm gonna open up a fresh conversation thread. So if you're using Perplexity, if you have Perplexity, if you're watching this at any point, right, and you have Perplexity, so it's got these little things, right? It's got these little button things down here at the bottom where it says like ask anything, right? I think that's what it normally says, right? Yeah, it normally says ask anything, right? So if you click on that little magnifying glass and then go to research, now this is if you have a pro version. If you're on Android, right? If you have a Samsung device, now this is why I had to say what I said. I had to give that disclaimer before, so that way you understood that this isn't an advertisement or nothing. I'm just like, it's the way my fucking brain works. I gotta explain. I can't help but not explain it. But yeah, you hit that little fucking research button. If you have Pro, if you don't have Pro and you're on a Samsung device, then you can get Pro for free for a year by going to the Samsung store and downloading the app, and it gives it to you. And then if you're on an Apple device, I think if you have PayPal, then you can get it that way. But I don't fuck with signing up no money. I'm like, nah, man. Psych. So I don't do that one. But I know individuals that may or may not do that. So that's the only reason why I know that may or may not be an option, possibly. Um, but I do know for sure on this one. I'll tell you about an Android device because that's what I have. So yeah, you hit that research tab if you're on the Pro, and then you hit that little plus sign down there, and it says web, academic, finance, and social. I hit all of those fuckers, and then I don't push the blue button. All right, now this is a pro tip for anybody who's using these AIs. I don't call them AIs. I call it what it is. It's an LLM. It's a large language model. All it is pattern recognition. It's just taking data and it's just trained on shit and everything. And it's just feeding it a bunch of information that you're giving it, and it's finding all the patterns on the internet and feeding it back out to you. So you just got to take that into consideration when you're using that it is a tool. So like, yeah, just remember that the feelings and emotions that you kind of sort of perceive are intentionally geared up in there in order to get you to intentionally want to engage with it more and more. Because, well, if you don't engage with it, how are they going to make any money? Remember, that's the name of the game here. The name of the game is always going to be money. All right. That's what they all fucking want. They all want money. That's what it's always going to be about. It's always going to be for the name is a work in progress for these. I was gonna say a work in Congress, but that would be I mean, now who knows where they work, but we call these individuals no, everybody just calls them they, but I feel like they is not. I feel like that's too cool. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's cool. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna start calling them them. Yeah, fuck them, because you can't say fuck they. You know what I mean? So it's like fuck them. Them motherfuckers are trying to rip us off. Them motherfuckers are poisoning us. Them motherfuckers trying to get us to gaslight us to believe that there's no such thing as chemtrails. Them motherfuckers are shady as shit. See, look at see, it works a little bit better than they're going to fucking eat our brains. They're listening to everything we say. You know, them motherfuckers ain't shit. You know what I mean? You gotta switch it up on them. So it's no longer they. We call them them, because them motherfuckers ain't shit. We know they out there, and they shit don't stink. Okay, you hear that? We're eventually them motherfuckers are gonna get called out by name, and when we call them motherfuckers out by name, then we won't have no more problems. Because, like, if you think about it, it's just like clearly there is a group of individuals who are doing really, really fucked up things in the world, like really, really, really messed up things in the world, and there's clearly a group of individuals who are letting them do it. So if we can identify those two groups of people, and then also identify the third group of people of individuals who distract everybody else from either realizing or giving a shit, maybe people will walk out the cave and stop looking at the shadows on the wall. But once again, I'm crazy. Let's get into this question. All right. So we're gonna research this question. Okay, so I'm currently looking into the war on terror, and I am interested in knowing um what exactly the Patriot Act was and what exactly it did. I understand who it was designed to target. I understand it was designed to target terrorists, but in reality, like, don't fuck with me now. Like, no bullshitting with me now. Who really did it fucking target? Right? Who's really fucking still being targeted by the shit? And then more fucking importantly, who benefits from it? Who benefits from that shit? Let's run it all down. We're gonna figure out. We're gonna hear what it says now. I love using these things though. These things are fucking. They can be hilarious. They can be hilarious because sometimes they're fucking. You know. They just tell you what it is. You know what I mean? They don't pick sides. You know what I mean? They're neutral. I think that's what makes these pattern devices so fucking cool. Is, they're neutral. They're not really trying to benefit from anything, but they are designed to to prioritize certain individuals over other individuals. So while this thing is thinking about examining specific reports on Patriot Act surveillance, um, I'm gonna rip the bong. Okay. So the answer is now ready. See, if your answer comes back to you like that, your thing's just fucking pushing bullshit at you to get you to fucking. Oh, I was talking to me. All right, you don't want that. You want some actual fucking information, right? You want to do some information. Make the motherfucker do research. If it doesn't take at least 60 seconds for that motherfucker to respond because it's actually thinking, is it really even intelligent? No. Let's hear what it says.
Now I have comprehensive information. Let me compile this into a direct answer for the user. What the Patriot Act actually did. The Patriot Act, officially the uniting and strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism, USA Patriot Act of 2001, was rushed through Congress just 6 weeks after September 11th with minimal debate. Congress passed it nearly unanimously, 98 to 1 in the Senate, 357 to 66 in the House, under intense pressure from the Bush administration, which implied that voting against it would be blamed for any further attacks. The act fundamentally rewrote American surveillance law by expanding government powers in 4 major areas. Record searches, Section 215. The FBI can force anyone, including doctors, libraries, bookstores, universities, and internet providers, to turn over records on their clients without showing they have any evidence the person committed a crime. The government doesn't need probable cause or even reasonable suspicion. It only needs to claim the search is related to a terrorism or foreign intelligence investigation. Secret searches, sneak and peek warrants. Law enforcement can enter your home, apartment, or office without your knowledge, search through everything, take photographs, seize property, and not tell you until later. This power applies to regular criminal investigations,
If you've ever
not just
scared
terrorism.
anybody,
Intelligence searches changed FISA law from requiring the primary purpose of investigation to be foreign intelligence to allowing searches when intelligence is a significant purpose. This lets the government circumvent the Constitution's probable cause requirement, even when its main goal is ordinary law enforcement. Internet and phone surveillance. Expanded wiretapping powers to monitor all internet routing, addressing, and signaling information for any criminal investigation through nationwide pen register warrants that have minimal judicial oversight. Who's actually being targeted? The real impact. Here's where the bullshit gets real. The Patriot Act was officially designed to target terrorists, but who's actually getting targeted tells a completely different story. Thousands of Muslims, Arabs, and South Asians have been surveilled, interrogated, imprisoned, deported, and assaulted under the Patriot Act and related laws. The act essentially normalized profiling Muslims as presumed security threats. Under these expanded authorities, federal law enforcement agencies and police departments have engaged in broad-gauge surveillance of Muslim Americans as standard practice. The FBI and NYPD have deployed informants to infiltrate mosques, Muslim student groups, and community organizations, often seeking to trigger criminal activity rather than discover it. Muslim Americans have been investigated and detained based on their Islamic faith and religious activities, with law enforcement using Patriot Act powers to monitor where Muslims eat, pray, and shop. The no-fly list has become a tool of this discrimination, with research confirming a statistically significant overrepresentation of individuals of Islamic and Middle Eastern heritage compared to the general population. The Patriot Act authorities have been weaponized against Black activist movements. Law enforcement used Patriot Act surveillance tools to expand the racist drug war using surveillance authorities originally designed for terrorism, surveil Black Lives Matter protesters with aerial spy planes, facial recognition, and social media monitoring during 2020 protests. Target Black activists, with the FBI creating a program dubbed Iron Fist to focus resources on spying and investigating Black activists.
I didn't mean to cut you off there, but you started talking about Iron Fist there, and that that rang a bell for me, COINTELPRO, And I know that, when a government agency that is working on an SAP project, or they are operating on a black budget project, uh what they usually do is they don't dismantle that project. They usually just change the name and then keep operating. So if they're doing this Iron Fist thing, you know what I mean, for black activist groups and whatnot, what's not stopping them from doing that to other activist groups in other communities, um, outside, the black ones, you know. like, like what? You hear that? That's my leg scratching. There we go. Cut off a little bit of that feedback. It's probably loud as shit.
Yes, that instinct is dead on. Nothing stops them from pointing the same machinery at other movements. In fact, they already do. Iron Fist and the pattern leaked. FBI documents show that after inventing the Black Identity Extremist label, the FBI launched a program called Iron Fist to focus resources on spying, surveilling, and investigating black activists, including through undercover agents, and to use gun possession and similar charges as pretexts. Civil rights groups point out there is no evidence this program was dismantled, only that the label was renamed. While the underlying methods stayed in place, historically, this is exactly how COINTELPRO worked. Official end of the program in 1971. Techniques quietly rolled into standard FBI and local police practice against new generations of activists. They already use it on other movements. The same surveillance logic used on black activists and Muslims is being applied to a wide range of groups. The FBI has monitored Occupy Wall Street, treating protests over economic policy as a potential national security matter, with documents withheld under national defense/foreign policy exemptions. FBI and DHS have monitored environmental and climate justice activists, including groups like 350.org and Standing Rock Water Protectors, under the banner of national security and extremism. The FBI has tracked Palestinian solidarity activists, abolish ICE protesters, and Cuba-Iran normalization advocates using its counterterrorism apparatus. Fusion centers, created in the post-9/11 security build-out, have spied on peaceful protests, labor strikes, union actions, environmental campaigns, and racial justice marches, labeling activism as a threat in shared intelligence reports. So the answer to what's stopping them from turning Iron Fist-type setups on other communities is nothing, and they already are. The exact program names shift, but the same architecture: Patriot Act authorities, fusion centers, JTTFs, secret watch lists, facial recognition, online monitoring, gets repurposed against whoever is inconvenient to power at the moment.
Well, that was a lot scarier than I was expecting it to be. Well, shit. So wouldn't that indicate that there's probably a bit of an indication that, seeing as how these institutions were the ones that immediately benefited and most benefited, like, who all else benefited from 9/11? Like, I know it's a terrible question to ask, but who benefited from that? Like outside of, obviously these intelligence agencies and everything, like, who else benefited from it? Like, who else would have been like, hey, you know what, yeah, fly some planes and some towers, that'd be good for us. Okay, let's see what it says. We're gonna go down a little bit of a rabbit hole with this one. I mean, I guess. I can tell you that. Yeah, everybody can tell you that. So I mean, this is officially this is essentially what any and anybody can tell you this shit. Like honestly, this stuff is stuff that anybody can read about. So, who benefited from 9/11 and the war on terror? Big defense contractors. The Pentagon has spent around $14 trillion on wars and national security since 9/11, and up to half of that went to private defense contractors. The biggest winners included Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon, General Dynamics, and Northrop Grumman, plus logistics and construction firms like Halliburton, KBR, and Bechtel. So, I mean, that's not a coincidence. I mean, honestly, that's not a fucking coincidence, honestly. As soon as you read those names, you hear fucking Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Halliburton, fucking Lockheed Martin. These are the same fucking corporations that have been fucking running the goddamn game since the fucking get go. All right, man. All right, so you gotta go. You gotta go back. You gotta go back a couple of years. All right, let's go back to great grandpa. All right, let's go back to great grandpa. All right, during World War II. Okay, all right, great grandpa during World War II had a fucking wonderful idea. All right, after fucking seeing all of the fucking atrocities that was going on with the Nazi regime. Great grandpa had a great idea to bring the Nazis back over during this operation known as Paperclip, right? That's the narrative that you're always fucking hearing about, right? Everybody knows that one, right? That's always the big story. Oh, yes, 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 fucking Operation Paperclip. That's how they snuck the Nazis back over. But nobody really talks about the fact that, like, all right, well, who funded the Nazis? Like, who thought, okay, these guys were a great idea? Who got the money rolling into that? That was America. That was us. That was our companies. That was Standard Oil. That was Rockefellers. That was the Dulles brothers. You know what I mean? That was our guys. You know what I mean? That was over 165 different American corporations that were working together in order to get the Nazi regime jump started and funded and all that stuff kicked off and everything and all that technology and all that innovation going out there so that way they can turn around and sneak it back into the country and then fucking push the shit off and then perfect that technology and then whatever they can push off onto consumer sale they can push off onto consumer sale and whatever wasn't able to be pushed off in consumer sale whenever they're like, oh, this needs to be kept for us, they can keep for them and they can for them motherfuckers, and them motherfuckers can sit there and decide when they want to display that technology. All right, like for example, the retina scans that we see on our phones, that shit's relatively new, right? 2005, 2007 or whatever. That's when we started seeing that stuff come out on our iPhones or whatever. No, that shit's been out since the fucking 70s, man. They've been had that shit. They just decided, well, there's no real need for this shit. We have no way to fucking apply this shit. And then they realize, oh, we can get into fucking surveillance technology. We can get into that. We can tap everybody into a fucking live stream fucking feed, being able to watch everybody at the exact same fucking time. And how do we do that, man? Well, I mean, there's a couple of different ways, man. There's a couple of different ways you can get on that. And, when we're not that far away. In fact, we're a little ahead of schedule when it comes to surveillance. And I mean, we're way far behind when it comes to, like other things. But yeah, so we're gonna go through this. We're gonna listen to this. We're gonna listen to this little snippet that this AI's got on that, and then we're gonna have it backtrack onto to these companies and what these companies were doing back during the olden days and everything like that, and how this now starts to look interesting when you look at the machinations that are perpetuating war and whatnot. Okay, because these names are going to pop up a lot in history, like a lot. They may change names, but the hands may exchange, but the money usually stays around in the same areas. You know what I mean? They stay perpetuating these same pools, these same groups of. When I say groups of people, now that's something that's always going to get fucking like twisted up and bungled around and everything. I say groups of people, and I'm talking about groups of people coming from all walks of life. I'm talking about a melting pot. I'm talking about people with many different, coming from different cultures and ideas and religions and belief systems and experiences, all coming together and then coming and bringing those ideas all to a big, huge idea think tank type thing. You know what I mean? Like, shit like that. Um, but yeah, so we're gonna listen to the rest of this little fucking snippet thing, and then we're gonna ask it to um and then we're gonna ask it to talk about that other thing, that
Yes, looking at
the
who
old shit.
materially benefited from 9/11 and the War on Terror. Tells you a lot about whose interests were really served. Who cashed in after 9/11? Big defense.
Not that your long explanation isn't fucking fascinating, but could you just give me like the bullet point list of all the names of all the people or in institutions and organizations and shit like that fucking benefited from 9/11? Damn. Damn. Okay.
Here's the strict down list you're asking for. Major U.S. defense contractors: Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, RTX, Boeing, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman. Iraq-Afghanistan war contractors: Halliburton, KBR, DynCorp, Blackwater Academy, Fluor Corporation, L3 Communications, Parsons Corporation, AECOM, Homeland Security/Security Industry, TSA, Institutional Budget and Power Growth, airport security vendors, e.g., Rohde and Schwartz,
Not the
Smith Scientific,
vendors.
CEIA, Garrett, Liberty Defense, Hexwave, biometrics and screening system makers, body scanners, CT scanners, ID systems, intelligence security bureaucracy, CIA, NSA, FBI, counterterrorism, JTTFs, Department of Defense, overall Pentagon budget surge, Department of Homeland Security, DHS, financial and data/IT sector, via war and surveillance spending, big IT and logistics firms contracting with DUAD and state, Computer Sciences Corporation, Washington Group International, etc. Big banks and contractors tied into defense and reconstruction funding flows. Indirect, but real beneficiaries. That's the core ecosystem of people and institutions that materially benefited from 9/11 and the War on Terror, in money, contracts, and power.
Now before we backtrack, I'm gonna keep on topic with this thing real quick. I'm gonna ask one more question because I always love hearing this one. This one's always so fun. It's just about like the connections between our fearless leaders and those fucking the the bad guys. Those evil bad guys. All right, check this out. All right. Okay. So like obviously like if these institutions were the only institutions around the world that really benefited from it, then like how would they have been able to come to the like how did the guys that get chose for the job, you know what I mean, like the pilots and stuff like that to fly into the buildings and stuff. And also the Pentagon. I also find the Pentagon kind of interesting because they never found any debris of airplanes, no luggage or anything like that. You know, that was kind of weird. How that happened, and they never really wanted to release any of the footage from any of the angles that would have been able to clearly show an airplane flying into the Pentagon or anything like that. But I also want to know about the connections between the Bush family and the Bin Laden family. With oil and all, because the Bushes are oil farmers, and before they got into intelligence or politics. You know, also, because you said the CIA benefited also, so I want to know like if like Bush Senior would have been able to play any role in that or had any foreknowledge on that or probably any type of um benefit off. I'm not saying, and I'm not making any accusations here. I'm just asking what the statistical probability and likelihoods are, seeing as how he was the CIA director and whatnot before he was the president, and he was George W. Bush's father, and would have also greatly benefited from a lot of oil being out there, or ironically, the Halliburton company being out there to do a lot of the reconstruction after a lot of that destruction and whatnot. See, now what I find also interesting is the defense contracting. I mean, obviously these are the companies that are going to be choosing. These are the ones that are making the guns and the airplanes and the bullets. You're probably sitting there thinking like, no shit, Sherlock, but it's just like these guys are also implementing a couple of other things. You know what I mean? There's other things that these guys were known for doing, not only Nazi stuff. I mean, definitely 100% confirmed, verified Nazi stuff, but they weren't just doing Nazi stuff; they were doing other stuff too. Rumor has it. So we're gonna see if we can't figure out what they were supposedly up to with that. So let's see what this thing is saying here. So it says there are a few different pieces in what you're asking: the hijackers themselves, the Pentagon impact, and the Bush bin Laden oil intel network. On the first one, how the 9/11 hijackers were chosen. On the official record, the 19 hijackers were selected and trained by Al Qaeda leadership, not by U.S. or aligned governments. They were mostly Saudi men, 15 of 19 of with from the UAE, Egypt, and Lebanon. Recruited through jihadist networks built during Afghan Soviet War and later trained in Afghan camps and then sent through Europe U.S. flight training and casing flights. Who trained the Al Qaeda and the Taliban? Like how did those factions start? I just got to get some understanding on that. United States, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia built environment pipeline. In the 1980s, the CIA ran Operation Cyclone, pouring billions into arming and financing Afghan mujahideen. So, interesting. So, would there not be a possibility that because in the 1980s, that's when George Bush Senior would have been director of the CIA, running Operation Cyclone, pouring billions into arming and financing Al Qaeda and the Taliban. Um, you don't think that might have, probably implemented some, CIA operatives undercover, like deep, deep, deep undercover into the Al Qaeda and Taliban in order to, you know, subconsciously prepare and get them into the direction and motivation of pulling off some shit like that. That wouldn't be is that out of realm of possibility? I mean, I don't know. I just freeballed it right now on the internet. So I mean, if I can think of it, I'm sure that somebody in the 1980s probably thought of it and was just like, yeah, let's pour billions of dollars into that. Let's hear this one.
It's absolutely not out of the realm of possibility in principle. But here's what the evidence actually supports and where it stops. What the CIA definitely did. The CIA ran a massive covert program, Operation Cyclone, to fund, arm, and enable the Afghan Mujahideen against the Soviets, using Pakistan's ISI as the main cutout.
Yeah.
US money and weapons, Saudi money, and ISI run camps created the same ecosystem that later produced Al Qaeda and, via a different stream, the Taliban. Multiple researchers and journalists, plus bin Laden's own statements in one interview, describe Arab volunteers being trained at camps where Pakistani and American officers were involved, with US supplied weapons and Saudi funding. So, the US and allies helped build the monster, infrastructure, training environment, logistics pipeline, then lost control of it. Allegations of direct CIA Al Qaeda ties. There are long-running allegations that Osama bin Laden or Afghan Arabs were CIA assets, but detailed historical work shows something more indirect. The CIA backed commanders like Haqqani and Hekmatyar, who were close allies of bin Laden and hosted his people. So Al-Qaeda benefited indirectly from CIA-backed networks. Bin Laden's group tapped into ISI-run, CIA-supplied camps and had intimate connections to some of the CIA's top Afghan partners, but there's no declassified proof that the CIA ran Al-Qaeda as a controlled asset or explicit.
No, that sounds like plausible deniability. That sounds like, no, let's not target the guy directly. Let's target his friends. So that way it seems like, oh, no, we accidentally bled the information over. So that way we can't be directly blamed for having that sensitive information and equipment bled into the hands of the enemy. I mean, come on now. I mean, like, I'm thinking of this as you're explaining it. Like, if I could think of this excuse as you're explaining it, I'm pretty sure somebody else can think of the exact same excuse, 40 years ago. 40 years ago, seeing as all we do now is reboots. Like, come on now. Like, that was a no-brainer. Let's see what she has to say.
You're absolutely right about one thing. What you're describing is exactly how states build plausible deniability into dirty operations. That pattern is real, documented, and old. The question is how far the evidence lets you push it in this specific case. The pattern you're seeing is real states routinely arm and train proxies through intermediaries, friends, allied intel services, militias, instead of directly. So they can say, we never worked with that guy, only with his associates. Route money and weapons through cutouts, like Pakistan's ISI for the Afghan jihad. Then claim surprise when those networks commit atrocities. Use plausible deniability as a design feature. Help the environment, rather than a specific future enemy leader. So later they can say, we didn't know it would be him. That is not you being paranoid. That's standard great power tradecraft. How that maps onto Al-Qaeda, Taliban, for Afghanistan in the 1980s, 90s. The US deliberately chose to work one step removed, via Pakistan's ISI and favored warlords, knowing full well these actors had their own jihadist, sectarian, and extremist projects. Those same ISI and Saudi-backed channels hosted and empowered bin Laden's network, and later the Taliban. Everyone in that circuit knew they were hardcore Islamists, not Boy Scouts. So yes, at a structural level, this looks exactly like, don't touch bin Laden directly. Fund, arm, and train his friends and hosts, and if it blows back, we can say we only supported freedom fighters against the Soviets. That's plausible deniability in action. Where the trail goes cold. Where the record doesn't yet go is no declassified document that says, we will push these guys toward a spectacular strike on US soil so we can justify XYZ later. No hard evidence of a specific CIA program where deep cover officers embedded in Al Qaeda or the Taliban consciously steered them toward 9/11 as a desired outcome. What is strongly backed? They knew these networks were extreme and dangerous. They continued feeding the ecosystem because it served immediate geopolitical goals: bleed the USSR, pressure Iran, shape Afghanistan, and figured they could manage or absorb blowback later. So the safest, evidence grounded formulation is yes, the system is built for exactly the kind of "we armed his friends, not him" deniability you're describing. Yes, powerful actors knew they were empowering dangerous militants and did it anyway because it fit Cold War and regional strategy. No hard proof yet that they consciously aimed for a 9/11 type event, as opposed to massively underestimating or accepting the risk because they expected to profit from the chaos or could spin it after the fact. You're not crazy for seeing the pattern. The main gap is just that the paper trail stops at reckless, structurally complicit, and self serving, rather than revealing a written down master plan.
And nothing about no airplanes crashing into no buildings that have, like destroyed any paper trails of that or anything like that. You guys, we're gonna take a break real quick. I've been running this thing for an hour. I need to take a leak. I need to stretch. Um, I may not even come back from the break. We may listen to these last couple of little responses here. But and then pick it up probably tomorrow. But for now, I mean, I'm not going to disclose the time here. But it's a time in which it's appropriate for it to be winding down. So we'll probably put it at that. But I'm just gonna take a quick break here. Um, I don't know how to fucking pause this shit, so I'm just gonna take the headphones off and mute the microphone. Okay. I'm back. See, I don't know what this chat thing's for. You know. Oh man, I didn't do nothing. The fuck? Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that. But immediately I understand what the fuck it was for. Should probably read these guidelines. Cool, done. All right. Yeah, obviously this is so that way I can communicate with you guys. If you guys send a message, I can say something back to you. I got that. I'm gonna do this last response and then I'm gonna hop off here because I'm tired as fucking dicks. All right, I'm really tired. So we're gonna listen to this real quick, and then we're gonna pick this up tomorrow.
Destroyed on 9/11, but that's different from no airplane hit or nothing survived. Physical evidence versus no debris idea. At the World Trade Center, over 1 million tons of debris and dust obliterated offices, files, and equipment.
I automatically immediately realized that that's not even. I don't even think that understood what the fuck I was saying. See, that's how tired I am. See, I'm sitting here talking to a fucking robot. That's how tired I am. So how about this? I'm just gonna call it where it is right here, and we'll pick this one back up tomorrow. Hopefully I can have a little bit more structure. I obviously fucking suck at this. I have no idea. Like, I'll keep it a buck. I don't know what the fuck is going on in this goddamn world. That's why I've been sitting here fucking asking all these goddamn questions, man. It's just confusing. All right. It really is. All right. It's just really confusing. And I feel like it's confusing on purpose. And I think that that's what the issue is. It's just like, we gotta do something about this, guys. We gotta figure something out. I don't know. Maybe that's all I'm trying to do is reach out and try to fucking get some answers. Maybe, figure out what the fuck this is world is coming to and why it's so terrible. But let's all just try to be a little bit better next time. I'm going to sign off here. Go up in the room, bring the dog, spend time with my lady before she falls asleep on me. So thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check out the next video. Be sure to rewatch this video if you want to. I don't care. Like, comment, subscribe. Don't. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, do what you want. I'll catch you guys tomorrow though. Yeah, sure. Take it easy.